Hey, it's Don the Auction Professor here. Today is Sunday, so we are going to do another What Sold on eBay. So we're just going to hop straight on over to the screen right now and show you some items we sold. Okay, so here is the first item. This is a Buddy L tin truck. And when I actually got this, the back of the truck was not on it. I had to reattach it. I spent some time with some tools and actually bent all the prongs back into place. Actually got it working. I spent $5 on the truck because of the condition it was in. I've had it up for a year. I took $100 on it. I could have taken 50 or 60. I don't know how many times some of the offers that came in were in that range. I just passed them up. I wanted at least half of what I put it up for, so $100 I'm fine. Somebody could fix this up and repair it. The tires are there. It's pretty much all there, and it does still work. You're missing the very back part that slides on there as well, but that's this one here. Next one here is another pencil. I sold this one for $10. I've talked about pencils many times. I had like 14 of these. I think there's only 2, maybe 3 of these left at this point. I've sold them in the $10 range mostly for the ones that I sold. You've seen other ones from the railroads. Those I usually get $14.50 or better on. So pencils sell very well. These I can buy in bulk many times, like dozens of them. Sometimes a box or a case, sometimes of a whole company pencil like this, sometimes for 10 or 15 bucks at an auction. So next one's just another roller skating label. This one here I took 15 on. Average price on these I usually get 15 to say $34.50. Next one, the little engine that could. This is a first edition. And as I've talked before, you look for the A on the back over there to tell what edition is. You can just barely see it under the spine right there. A lot of people weren't aware of that, so anyway, that's how you can tell on any of these. I've got a video just on little golden books as well if you're interested. $14.50 is what I took for it. That's about average for this one. I priced them higher than most other people on here. Every one of these doesn't sell for a ton of money, but they do sell, and I don't usually pay much for them, 69 cents or less. Here's a little piggy bank. It's in the shape of the World Atlas book. I had a bunch of these. I don't know if it was like a leftover from a case of them, but I got like 24 of these at an auction once before. I've sold through most of them. I think I still have one more left. They all look about the same. It's just a little tiny plastic bank in the shape of a book. Nothing fancy in all honesty. Next one here is a John Walker & Sons limited... It's actually a whiskey bottle of some sort, I guess you could say. I guess like maybe an orange liqueur or something. I'm not really sure. I know the cap, date-wise, and you can look up this company as well, does fairly well. It's sold for $10. I've had it up for a while. I'm not a big fan on glass. I probably would have discarded this when we went through the glass a few months ago and actually discarded like a big chunk of the stuff that's been sitting around for a while. Every so often in some categories, I'll just trash some items if they haven't sold in a certain length of time. And this was coming up to the line, so $10 I'm fine. I paid $1 for it somewhere, It's just no big deal, even at that. So, I have 60 cents or more into listing it, $1 into buying it. I sold it for 10. I still made like $7. No, it's not going to break the bank, but, I didn't lose anything. I've got nothing into it when, for time-wise. So, I really can't complain, really, even at that cost. Next one here is a reproduction California token. Even the reproductions on these do well. I took $10 for it. They go $6, $8, $10 at max on these. These show up, these reproduction ones. I've had a real one just once in my life, and that thing sold for hundreds of dollars. There's some bronze and brass versions of this. It wasn't gold, the version I had, obviously, but anyway, $10, I'm fine with that. I've got maybe $1 or less into it. I don't mind buying cheaper stuff for like $1 or less when I know I'm going to sell it in a month or two at the most. And that's a perfect example. That's been up for maybe 30 days. Those things move fairly quickly just because a lot of people don't put them up. When people see some things that are reproductions, they don't even bother to look them up. If it says reproductions, people pass them by. There are many cases when reproduction items are still valuable just because the real one's so scarce. And even sometimes the reproduction was made in a very limited quantity from, say, the original dies of the item that the reproduction's of. So, that could be the case. And sometimes the, like, buttons for uniform buttons and things like that, they've recast some of those by the same company using some of the same face hubs, the die hubs that would have stamped the button. So, anyway, that's just something to think about on that. This one here went for $12.50. This person bought several of these luggage labels from me at the same time. And that's usually what happens with these. They save postage and things along that line as well. Again, these are collector items, so people buy multiples. That's not odd or unique in these types of areas, in my opinion. Next one here is an Easter card. I took 30 on this one here. It's an interesting one. It's an early one. These type of things do show up, so this is something that I look for. It's got a nice poem on the back also, so I can't complain. I got $1 into it. It's the same size as a postcard, basically. I've been selling a ton of Easter, maybe like 40 different Easter cards of some sort sold this past week. So it's a good time. You should have had them up already. You know, I seasonal-wise batch stuff up at the same time. Goes into my 90-day plan. I try to list as many as I can before it actually happens, the holiday. So 10 bucks on this one. And I think that same person bought a couple other ones as well, too. Here's just a poster stamp. I took 20 on this one here. It's small. It's like an inch across. Somebody would have stuck this on an envelope advertising when they mailed out a letter or something, advertising favorite stoves and ranges. It's just a brand. Favorite is the brand. They're cast iron cooking stoves and then ranges as well, too. Next one here is a Gettysburg actual booklet with the mailer. It would have came in. This is something that you would have probably got at one of the battlefields, like one of the gift shops or something like that. And you could have mailed it to home to one of your family. I got 15 out of this. I paid $1 for it, so no complaints on my behalf. It was up for a year or so, maybe a little longer than that. No big deal at all. Another good sale. Now here's a unique one. It has Jesus's image. Now, you have to look at it. It's up there on the left. You can see the beard, the mustache. And as you go down, you can see the whole figure, basically, there in these bushes. Now, this is a real photo postcard of this scene. It's just something natural. I sold it for 45 bucks. It's $1 postcard. Most people would have looked at this and said there's nothing there, and then they would have just moved on. So, $1 purchase, 45 bucks in return. Now here's another early postcard from Andover, Ohio. I find more Ohio postcards than most any others around here just because I'm in Ohio. So that's just a plus for me for some of these areas because I know which ones to buy. I sold this one for $28.50. It's been up for a little while. It's nondescript. I can't ID much else in it at the point. So, you know, I'm pretty happy with that return on my investment. This is a $1 card. Somebody wrote a note so you can tell what basically it is. But again, I wished I knew the band that was performing. It could have added to the value on this. Most of the ones from this town don't sell for a ton of money. So that's right up in there in the top grouping of all cards from Andover, Ohio that's sold. So I'm fine with that price. Again, I put things up higher. I don't worry about it. Somebody makes an offer. They're all bins. Sometimes they sell at full price. Sometimes, you know, I end up letting them run for a while. And sometimes I sell them pretty quickly in some offer setting. So works either way for me. Here's another Easter postcard. I took 10 bucks on this one. Here is a Barclay, 1940s, 50s. I'm pretty confident on that dating from it. I've had many of these pieces. You can tell by the actual chain link on this. That's just a style that was around back then. It fits every critique from that era. It's got a little wear to a few pieces on it that are brass. I'm happy with the 20 this went out shipped for, so that's fine. This is a $1 purchase for me. It may not even look like much either, but these do very well. These types of gaudy, chunky pieces of jewelry. It doesn't have to be gold colored. It could have some wear. Somebody can buff that out and you probably wouldn't even know that it had wear. Like the clasp up there has a little bit of wear, as you can see. And that's right where it would rub on someone's shirt. So the wear is typical of the age. You can kind of tell, too, on how worn some pieces are as to how old it may be. That can help greatly, like a patina to it as well. National Geographic's $11.99 on these. The war issues always sell for us. The World War II ones specifically. 1940 through 45 are the ones that I specifically buy out. I just got a huge, horrendous lot of them not too long ago, and I keep selling them. They sell a couple a month, every single month, no matter what. Sometimes I'll sell 10 to the same person. Price-wise, these go very cheap when I buy them. A quarter, maybe an issue. Sometimes they're like 10 for $1. And the people won't distinguish the era or age on some of them because mostly they look the same for many years. So just keep that in mind. These do go well if they're war-related issues or if they've got some of the maps in them or if they're the China or something like that. Next one's an educational bird card from like 1870s. Now, I had this one up for a little while. I've got about 90 cents into listing this. I've got $1 or so or less into this. I had a bunch of these at once. It was like a school package of some sort of educational cards. On the back, it describes the hummingbirds that are on the front. I took 45 on this, and it's got a terrible image, unfortunately. This is part of the reason I am repairing and fixing my photos. If you want to know about that, I actually have a video up from last week about it, so just check out my video from last week. It actually will improve your sales, fixing these all up, brightening them up, making them look more like the real item, not having them as skew and all that other kind of stuff. We're going back in and probably fixing up around 5,000 listings that are bad. Now, these are old listings. All the new ones, obviously, we've already been doing nicer images, of course. So anyway, this was a real good purchase here because I probably sold, I think, 6 or 7 of these already at that point from that set. I probably have like twice that still up. I'm fine with letting them run. The amount of money I got out of this one paid for all of them up for quite some time, and I'm sure I'm going to keep selling these just as I have. So, person's already left good feedback. Awesome, awesome card. They loved it. Another piece of jewelry. I think I took 15 on this one here. It's just some cheapo 40s, you know, dime store probably, I guess, piece of jewelry. It looks fine. It looks nice. It could be buffed. For those who love vintage jewelry, this is a nice example. It's got, you know, a secondary chain as well, so, you know, it's not going to get lost or anything. It's a rather unique item, honestly. It's nothing junk or anything. It's got the tiki design on there, and that usually sells these pieces. This I paid 50 cents for somewhere at a sale. When they feel light and they look like this, there's no markings, usually they're really cheap. And those are the ones I mess with, you know, when I run into them. And a lot of times I can find tons of them at sales and auctions and things like that. Next one's a Guggenheimer. It's a reserve. It's blended whiskey bottle label. It went for $17.50. This is a sample. It came from a factory. You could go on a tour in a lot of these factories, or even like printers and distributors would hand out samples of these to advertise their goods. So that's how I run into these a lot. Sometimes it'll be like a auction of a collector or an ex-employee or a distributor or something along that line. This kind of stuff does show up. I've got hundreds and hundreds of these, and probably maybe 10-15% of what I have is up. Just lack of time, I guess, for the most part. And they don't sell as quickly as some other items. So when we go into winter and there's not as much sourcing, these will start going up like in mass quantities. We'll just pick one day and I'll have 2 or 3 people just list everything we got, maybe even. So $17.50 though, 50 cents or $1 or less I pay for almost every one of these. Usually it's much less, like 4 for $1.25 a piece if I buy hundreds of them. Sometimes it's even cheaper than that. I try and buy in bulk as much as I can, so. And the last one here, again, I just picked some random items, nothing special. I don't show some items because they're in another store, and other items I don't show just because I don't want to give away everything that we do. Some items won't show up in my ended listings, so you're not going to see them in comps. And you can do that by flagging them as a replenishable item and then deleting them at the end. So anyway, this is a lobster oyster card, and I've got 3 I sold to the same person. Not in super condition. They're early, probably 1870s. I personally believe that the person who's buying them is actually buying them for the last name. Many times that is what happens. These are going to overseas, to England, on top of that, and they spent $14.50 to actually get these. They all went for the same price. I sold them for 40 bucks a piece, so it was $120 I sold the 3 of these for, plus another $14.95 for shipping. So that's how I do it on these types of items. I did give them a break. The original price was $57.50. Soft crabs just don't show up on these early cards. There's postcards that advertise soft shell crabs from like 1910s, 20s. A lot of New Orleans ones and Mardi Gras related ones have that type of information for some of the actual vendors that actually sold and did stuff like that. Like if it was boiled crawfish on a card, selling or marketing. I don't care if it's up into the 20s and 30s and even into the 40s and 50s. Some of those cards go very well for what the items are. And this is saltfish, lobsters, oysters, and soft crabs, turtles as well. So this is a seafood market collection here of 3 different cards. Well, there you go. There's some more items that we sold this past week. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.